Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we discuss what may be my favorite Nautilus model, certainly one of the most unusual and even iconoclastic. It's also an historic first, as the 3710 in my hand was the very first Nautilus to receive a complication other than a simple date, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Today we are discussing a model made from 1998 through the beginning of 2006. This is the Nautilus Power Reserve 3710/1A-001. It was only made in one form, the way you see here, and we're going to talk about what makes it so special. But in terms of size and dimensions, it's clearly derived from the original jumbo reference 3700. So 40 millimeters in diameter if you measure it diagonally, like this. If you measure it across, wingtip to wingtip without the crown, it's 42 millimeters, but it's a fairly thin watch at 8.3 millimeters thick, 44.6 from lug to lug. If you add the end link of the first link of the bracelet on each side, then you get a total distance across the wrist that's still a very reasonable 47.1 millimeters. And you could see that the flexibility of this bracelet is quite distinct from later Nautilus models, as it can be pulled perpendicular from the sweep of the case band. You can see that 90-degree break. Being able to pull the bracelet straight down means that this fits better on wrists that might be borderline sized for the watch. So my wrist is 16 centimeters circumference, and this wears a charm. As you can see, absolutely no issues. The case is nowhere near the edge of my wrist. I think this would wear fine on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Probably even suitable for a woman who wants to wear a full-size Nautilus. This is probably the best solution. And it is thin with a sloped flank and a thin profile. It'll easily slide underneath a dress cuff. In stainless steel, it's beautifully decorated. That's always been part of the Nautilus concept from the very first Model 3700, launched in 1976. Designer Gerald Genta, as he did with his Ingenieur SL and his Royal Oak, wanted something that was effectively a bracelet for a man that also included a timepiece. And so the wings sweep into the case band, into the lugs, into the bracelet. It's all one continuous melding of metal. Now we have a combination of polish and satin. You can see how the bevels of the case band continue down through the shoulders of the individual links. We have several removable links. They are fixed in place using screws, so that is old school Nautilus bracelet construction. The bracelet even feels a little bit more flexible than more recent 57 and 5811s. You can see that this watch is being preserved. It's not being thrown up against some sort of a polishing wheel or a grinder to make it look, quote, new. It's going to be preserved as best we can with as much of the original metal as we can offer to you. And this is a full set watch, including boxes and papers. We have a double folding clasp, and you can see it features a clamshell lock on the end with a Calatrava cross, the symbol of the brand. You can see the company and its city of origin inside. Let's take a quick look at the underside of the bracelet. Not a whole lot to see down there, but these are familiar pieces for Nautilus connoisseurs. Less familiar will be the case back, which is a true monoblock. So if you've grown up on 5711s, you've grown used to the three-piece case where you have a case back, you have a mid-case, and then you have a bezel. Here it's just the bezel, and the bezel locks down to the mid-case and the case back, which are hewn from a single piece of steel. And this was Gerald Genta's original concept, to make the watch highly water-resistant. Well, it's more expensive to make a watch without a separate case back, and so these monoblock cases mostly went away with the arrival of the 5711, and thus these watches, at least the full-size monoblock Nautilus models, represents something of a bygone era, and one that is qualitatively, at least in my opinion, preferable to more recent construction. We have a push-down crown here, and while the watch was originally 60 meters water-resistant, today I wouldn't test that theory, as this is now well into the realm of vintage, with the last examples leaving Geneva in 2006. You can see we have the distinctively decorated bezel, case flank, and lugs, combination of satin and polish. One element I always thought was better realized on the Nautilus compared to the Royal Oak, the bezel and the dial. Whereas the Royal Oak has the rounded polygon, at least outboard of its bezel. The inner bezel, crystal, and dial of a royal oak are all round, whereas here you can see outer bezel, inner bezel, crystal, and then dial are all formed. And that does have some impact on the difficulty of assembly, as a non-round crystal is always difficult to fit precisely and make water resistant. Now, I called this watch iconoclastic, and you can see at least a few of those reasons right here. First, you may notice, where are the lateral striations, which have always been a feature of Nautilus dials? Well, they're not here. You'll also note that the full signature down at 6 o'clock is a bit unusual. We have this matte black dial. We have running center seconds, which were unusual back in the late 90s on a Nautilus. Really, with the 5711, we've gotten very used to them. Even with the 3711, we got kind of used to them. But compared to a 3700, running center seconds was an unusual look back in 98. We've also got Roman numerals on the dial, including a watchmaker's 4. Those feature luminova. The later versions of this watch do feature luminova. White gold numerals, white gold hands, baton-style hands, and of course a chemin de fer, or railroad track outboard, for reading the minutes and seconds. Now, what's interesting about the Roman numerals is that Patek was experimenting with these on sports watches in the 90s, and in 1996, the mid-size Nautilus 3800 got a Roman numeral dial. That was 96. 2 years later, this model debuted, and it seems to have taken its cues from the 3800. Now, we have a quick set for the date, though we don't have hacking seconds. What we do have is an unusual power reserve that made this the first complicated Nautilus, but also somewhat unique, as this particular power reserve indicator would never be used again on any other Patek Philippe watch. So you can see, as I wind the watch up to its maximum power reserve of 48 hours, the first thing you see is that what appears to be the scale on the power reserve starts moving while the hand itself remains static. And I'm going to keep going here and give you a little bit of a sense of how all of this ends up. But if you want to just cut to the chase, both the scale and the hand eventually move, and it's a very unique, or I guess I should say truly unique aesthetic, because unique means one-off, and this is that. This is a watch that only ever showcased what you're looking at right here. And so now you can see that the hand as well as the scale are moving. A really fascinating look. So this is the caliber 330 SC IZR. So we have center seconds, we have a date, and then we have the power reserve, which is a bi-element moving power reserve. Let's take a look at the watch in the dark. I mentioned that some of these have luminova, some of these have tritium. You could see from the sustain of this dial that this is a luminova dial, and when they are tritium, they fade very quickly. It's easy to see. So this is a watch that is still practically lumed, in a sense that you can expect to be able to read it in the dark. And the array of Roman numerals, some of which are only partially luminescent, creates a bit of a chaotic and unusual luminescent aspect. This has to be perhaps the most scattered and oddly arrayed Patek Philippe dial lume shot of all time. And again, it's just one of the many quirks of this model. So you've got the power reserve, the Roman numerals, the matte black dial. Turning it all over, you cannot see the movement, but I'll narrate, and you can use your visual imagination here. So it's the center rotor automatic caliber 330 SZ IZR, center seconds, calendar, power reserve, and it's a 3 hertz beat rate automatic winder with a 48-hour power reserve. It's 5-position adjusted, pivots on 30 joules. It has the Geneva hallmark, so the Poisson de Genève, and it is free-sprung with a Gyromax-style free-sprung balance for precise regulation, and also a relatively robust amount of shock resistance for what is a thin, fine dress watch-style movement. So there is a lot to love inside the case, and again, it is a monoblock case, so you will never see the movement. Rest assured that it is every bit as distinguished in appearance and engineering as any conventional Patek Philippe movement would be. A little note, you have a bit of a hacking hack if you wish. Apply back pressure to the crown, and you can stop the non-hacking seconds hand pretty much wherever you want if you do wish to synchronize it to a reference time. Like I said, lots to love. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.